Rain pounded Seattle as Hannah Brooks, deaf and destitute, sorted trash outside a crumbling office. Inside, a ruthless manager's greed sparked chaos. One chance encounter would ignite her hidden brilliance, turning despair into defiance. The rain fell in steady sheets over Seattle, washing the city in a gray haze. In a small office park on the outskirts of town, the lights of Innovatech Solutions glowed dimly through the storm. Once a bustling hub of creativity, the office now felt like a pressure cooker ready to burst. Employees shuffled through their days, heads down, morale crushed under the weight of a new manager who seemed to care more about his own paycheck than the people who kept the company running. Hannah Brooks stood outside the office near a row of overflowing recycling bins. Her hands calloused but clean sorted cardboard with precision. She wore a faded jacket, her dark hair tucked under a worn baseball cap. At 28, life had dealt her a rough hand. A car accident had left her deaf, her dreams of a business career shattered, and her days now spent scraping by to feed herself and her rescued animals. Her old hearing aid buzzed faintly, catching fragments of the world around her. Inside the office was a mess. Papers littered desks, coffee stains marked the carpet, and the air smelled faintly of neglect. The cleaning position had been vacant for weeks. Clara Nguyen, the 50-year-old HR manager, sat at her desk, rubbing her temples. She'd been trying to fill the role, but the pay was a joke barely above minimum wage. Nobody wanted to mop floors for pennies. Mark Reynolds, the new branch manager, strutted into the open plan office, his suit crisp, but his demeanor anything but. At 40, he carried himself with the arrogance of someone who thought he'd cracked the code to success. His first move upon taking the job, slashing salaries for everyone except himself. Half the staff had quit on the spot, and those who stayed were either desperate or too stubborn to leave. "Clara, can you explain why this place looks like a dump?" Mark barked his voice, cutting through the hum of keyboards. "We're a tech company, not a landfill." "Where's the new cleaner?" Clara sighed, her patience worn thin. "Mark, I've told you. Nobody's applying. The salary's too low. If you just excuses, Clara." Mark snapped, pacing. "I don't care if we have to hire a high school kid. Get it done, or I'll add cleaning to everyone's job descriptions." The remaining employees exchanged weary glances. Among them was Lila Carter, a 25-year-old marketing assistant with a sharp wit and a sharper tongue. She muttered under her breath, "Great, now we're janitors too." Mark's gaze snapped to the window, where Hannah was stacking cardboard in the rain. A smirk crept across his face. "Hey, Clara, check this out. Looks like we've got a candidate right there." Clara followed his gaze, her stomach sinking. "Mark, she's just sorting recycling. She's not. Watch and learn, Clara." Mark interrupted, flinging open the window. "Hey, you by the bins. Come here a sec. Got a job you might want." Hannah didn't look up, focused on her task. Mark's smirk faltered. "You'll need some cash. Get over here." Still no response. Irritated, Mark turned to Clara. "Get security. Tell them to bring her in." Clara hesitated, then complied, knowing resistance was futile. Minutes later, a security guard escorted Hannah into the conference room. She stood quietly, her clothes damp but neat, her face calm despite the scrutiny. Her hearing aid, a clunky old model, sat awkwardly in her ear. Mark leaned forward, speaking slowly. "Can you understand me?" Hannah nodded, her eyes steady. "Want a job?" "Nothing tough, just cleaning the office." Mark's tone was patronizing, as if he were offering her a lifeline. Hannah paused, taking in the room. Her gaze lingered on the cluttered desks, the tired faces. Then she nodded again, a flicker of determination in her eyes. Mark grinned, turning to Clara. "See, not so hard. You might learn something from me yet." Clara's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Hannah, however, felt a spark of hope. The pay was low, but it was enough to buy food for her animals' 3 cats and a limping dog she'd named Rusty. She'd endure anything for them. Hannah started the next day, arriving before dawn. She scrubbed floors, polished desks, and emptied trash cans with quiet efficiency. Within a week, the office sparkled. But her colleagues weren't kind. They whispered behind her back, assuming she couldn't hear. "Look at her," Lila muttered to a coworker. "Bet she's never seen a real paycheck." Hannah caught the words through her hearing aid, faint but sharp. She kept her head down, her heart steeled by years of hardship. At night, she returned to her tiny apartment, where her animals greeted her with unconditional love. Rusty nuzzled her hand, and the cats curled around her feet. They were her family, her reason to keep going. Clara noticed Hannah's dedication and felt a pang of guilt. She cornered Mark after a staff meeting. "Mark, Hannah's doing an amazing job. Can we at least give her a raise? She's worth more than what we're paying." Mark scoffed. "For mopping floors? Come on, Clara. She's lucky to have this gig." Clara's frustration grew, but she stayed silent. She started watching Hannah more closely, noticing how she organized supplies with almost obsessive precision, how she'd linger near the break room reading discarded memos. There was something about her, something more than met the eye. One evening, Lila stayed late to finish a marketing report. She groaned, staring at a spreadsheet full of errors. Hannah, mopping nearby, glanced at the screen. Without a word, she pointed to a cell, then scribbled a note. "Your formula's off. Try this." Lila frowned, skeptical, but entered the correction. The numbers aligned perfectly. She looked at Hannah, surprised. "How'd you know that?" Hannah shrugged, her voice soft but clear. "I studied business in college." Lila blinked. "You went to college?" Hannah nodded, then turned back to her mop. Lila watched her go, a seed of respect taking root. Meanwhile, the office continued to crumble under Mark's leadership. Meetings were shouting matches, with Mark blaming everyone but himself for missed deadlines and lost clients. Employees quit weekly, and Clara was drowning in paperwork. She longed to leave, but at 50, feared starting over. James Carter, the 55-year-old CEO, started visiting the branch more often. He'd built Innovatech from the ground up and couldn't ignore the plummeting profits. Something was wrong, and he intended to find out what. After a tense meeting where Mark presented a sloppy report, James made a decision. He installed hidden cameras linked to his personal computer to monitor the office. Late one night, Hannah stayed behind to clean. She found a draft of Mark's latest report on his desk, riddled with mistakes. Her old instincts kicked in. She'd graduated top of her class in business school before the accident that changed everything. Sitting at a computer, she rewrote the report, adding charts and strategic suggestions. She left it on Mark's desk, unsigned, and went home. The next morning, Mark presented the revised report to James, claiming it as his own. James raised an eyebrow, impressed by the clarity and insight. "Nice work, Mark. Didn't know you had it in you." Mark smirked. "Took me all night, sir. Hope it meets your standards." James nodded, but something felt off. The handwriting on the printed draft was neat, almost feminine, not Mark's usual scrawl. He checked the camera footage that evening and froze. There was Hannah typing late into the night, her face focused, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She wasn't just a cleaner, she was brilliant. The next day, James called a meeting. "Mark, present your report again." He set his tone, calm but firm. Mark launched into his spiel, but James cut him off. "Stop. I saw the footage, Mark. You didn't write this. Hannah did." The room fell silent. Mark's face reddened. "Sir, enough," James said. "You've been taking credit for work that's not yours, and this branch is falling apart because of your arrogance. Clear your desk. You're done." Mark stammered, but James's glare silenced him. He shuffled out his bravado, gone. The staff exchanged stunned looks. James turned to his assistant. "Bring in Hannah, please." Hannah entered nervous, but composed. James gestured to a chair. "Sit, Hannah. I'd like to know more about you." That report was exceptional. "Where'd you learn to do that?" Hannah took a deep breath, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I graduated from Washington State with a degree in business administration. Top of my class. But life got in the way." She told her story, her words soft but clear. Growing up in poverty, she'd found refuge in books, sneaking into an abandoned house to study by flashlight. She earned a scholarship to college, where she met Ethan, her first love. They planned a future together, but a foggy night and a drunk driver changed everything. Ethan died, and Hannah woke in the hospital deaf and alone. His wealthy parents blamed her cutting her off. With no family support, she lost her apartment, her savings, everything. She'd been surviving on odd jobs, ever since her animals, her only comfort. James listened, his expression softening. "You've been through hell, Hannah. But you're still here, still fighting. That takes guts. I want you to take on a bigger role here. Project manager? You up for it?" Hannah's eyes widened. "Sir, You're not just anything," James said. "You're exactly what this company needs." Hannah accepted, her heart pounding. The next week, she stepped into her new role. She was nervous, but her knowledge and empathy shone through. She reorganized workflows, listened to her colleagues' ideas, and rebuilt the team's morale. Lila, once her harshest critic, became her biggest supporter. "Hey, Hannah," Lila said one day, handing her a coffee. "You're killing it. Sorry I was, a jerk before." Hannah smiled. Water under the bridge. Clara watched Hannah's transformation with pride. She'd always known there was something special about her. The office began to hum with energy again, projects moving forward, clients returning. Hannah also proposed a company-wide initiative, a fundraiser for local animal shelters and homeless support programs. She shared her story with the team, not for pity, but to inspire. "I know what it's like to feel invisible," she said. "We can make a difference for others." The team rallied behind her. They raised thousands, enough to fund a new shelter where Hannah's animals, Rusty and her cats, found a safe home. Hannah used her new salary to buy a better hearing aid, making communication easier. She moved into a small but cozy apartment, her life slowly stabilizing. James became her mentor, stopping by to check on her progress. "You're doing better than I ever expected," he said one day. "This branch is thriving because of you." Hannah blushed. "I just want to do right by the team, sir." "Call me James," he said with a grin. "And keep doing what you're doing." Months later, the office was unrecognizable. Laughter filled the break room, deadlines were met, and clients praised Innovatech's turnaround. Hannah launched a foundation to help people like her, those down on their luck, learn business skills, and rebuild their lives. She named it after Ethan, a quiet tribute to the love she'd lost. One afternoon, Hannah stood outside the office, watching the sunset paint the sky orange. She thought of her journey, the pain, the loss, the moments she'd nearly given up. But she'd kept going for her animals, for herself, and now for others. She walked to the nearby shelter, where Rusty bounded toward her tail, wagging. The cats purred as she scratched their ears. "Hey guys," she whispered, "we made it." The office staff joined her, their laughter mixing with the sounds of barking dogs and chirping birds. For the first time in years, Hannah felt at home, not just in a place, but in a purpose. She'd turned her darkness into light, and in doing so, lit the way for others.